Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Designing for the Desert. As we move deeper into the series, we've explored building systems, microclimates, BIM coordination, waste circularity, and design integration. Today, we zoom out because sustainability in arid regions is not only a building scale challenge, it's a program scale responsibility. Large scale infrastructure, multi billion dollar capital portfolios, cross border governance, regulatory navigation, risk management across volatile climates, and complex socio-economic systems. And that is where today's speaker operates. Engineer Feras Al-Tarawneh is a seasoned program and operations management leader with over 30 years of international consultancy experience across the United States, Asia, and the Middle East. He has led large scale infrastructure and urban development programs, overseen multidisciplinary capital portfolios, developed PMO structures, and directed sustainability driven strategic initiatives across the MENA and GCC regions. With credentials including the AIA affiliation, PMP certification, ISO aligned governance expertise, and lead for cities and communities specialization, his work sits at the intersection of engineering, master planning, financial control, and sustainability governance. Today's session will explore how sustainable development in arid regions must be governed, not just designed. His program, Leadership Shapes Outcomes, and how infrastructure regulation, risk, and economic strategy must align to deliver resilient development at scale. Engineer Firas, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Adit. Thank you, everyone, for taking the opportunity to listen to this valuable discussion about sustainability leadership in arid regions. I think this subject is widely discussed right now among symposiums and conferences, and it basically explores the opportunity of having a better influence on what we can do for the next decades. Obviously, sustainability went through multiple arenas, multiple areas, multiple times. It have difficulties, complexities arise through the projects, and it basically getting shaped right now in the Middle East, in the arid regions, in a fashion. And I think at leadership level, you ought to have a skill set and a capability and a thought process that deals with the arising complexities in this region. And certainly it has to be treated custom, and it has its own values and its own merits, to have sustainability as a guiding compass for major infrastructure and multi-billion dollar programs, or the mega projects. And the region is full of them at the moment. It's booming in certain areas, and as leaders, as practitioners, we all had to be very cautious of how sustainability is driven and applied. And it should not be an add-on. It should always be a systematic and systemic principle for us to a framework to apply. And from here, I can, Adit, I can enter into the core of the presentation, if you like.
Yes, I think the presentation is visible now.
I would assume I have a full screen, so I'll be looking at the strategic program leadership for sustainability development in arid regions and what lessons we learned from that region. Here we give an agenda of what we will be discussing. It's just an abstract at what we do at the program level, how do we deal with governance frameworks, and some case studies and some conclusions, and what we call thoughts for the future, basically. I accumulated a lot of experience with other leaders, learned from others, and learned from the projects themselves, learned from backgrounds that was implied into the practice. And MENA certainly in GCC have its own merits, have its own exemplary, programs. We have to always remember that everybody look at the economics aside from the environmental. But if you want to practice as a leader, you have to look at the economics, the environmental, and the social impacts. That gives you the ability to have the mix correct and to guide your programs. It's a multi-dimensional process. It becomes very complex with multi-billion-dollar mega projects endeavors, transforming the regions into multi-sectoral, basically, coordination. And that shows up at the program level very well. Basically the region have its own characters. It's extreme weathers, its temperatures is different, the water scarcity, the fragile air, ecosystem, the urbanization, fast urbanization that's happening, all constraints on the project management. There is also a need of accelerated transformation. Everyone wants their programs super quick, the returns very high, and oversight of sustainability is becoming an issue. You have to, as a leader, aside from all the noise that's around you, you have to have sustainability embed in your regime and the way you do things and the way you communicate. At the top of the communication level, the sustainability is fully integrated from day one, from the strategic level, from the charters, from the visioning. This is how you deal with it, not as an add-on or some certification process. It is certainly for decision making, guiding. So we embedded, at the program level. And how we do that, we always have to define the objectives of this sustainability program in terms of what we are looking for at the project, at the program, at this portfolio level, with all the stakeholders, with all the shareholders. It has to be discussed from the very beginning, and it has to be embedded within the life cycle of any program. And it often touches on the very important part of governance. And this is where governance, at the program level and as with the framework with the government agencies, it becomes impacting to your performance indicators. Then you take it a step further and you look at the environment and you deal with all the environmental issues, the sensitivity of the region, the ecological sensitivity. The assessment part of the process is where it becomes really visual, and you start adapting sustainability assessment tools. And certainly arid regions have its own assessment tools, have its own certifications now. We deal and we learn from the international examples, the best practices, the benchmarks, for sure, but we still have to critically look at all the tools and all the available methods and methodologies, to make sure that we are integrating this properly from the very strategic level. And certainly leaders are using sustainability as a process to show how the projects are moving forward or not, how it's integrated, fully integrated program, and it's again from the very early steps. You define the framework. You often discuss energy, water, transport, environmental issues separate. No, we look at them in a framework in a cohesive manner. We look at things that impact our urban systems, like solar, wind energies. We look at the water scarcity centrally to the system. We look at energy and electricity as part of the discussions always, how we make sure all these programs and complex portfolios are moving forward, are built, are withstanding all the environmental repercussions. And then we definitely look at the infrastructure. In a way, we incorporate the green and blue infrastructure to basically to mitigate all the constraints that we see here. Definitely, digital platforms are now working towards leveraging, the smart city, the optimization, the adaptive management, and that's a separate subject. It's a very detailed and separate subject. We will not be discussing that in length here, but it's important to understand how frameworks are integrated within these platforms. Uh, we touch on an important subject, which is the regulatory leadership as strategic capability. We have to have an early engagement with everybody. I say everybody, that means everybody in terms of your team partners, your shareholders, your stakeholders, your governments, your utility companies, your road and transportation, your contractors, your suppliers. That's how you build it. You make it as a knowledge base. You don't discuss things in isolation. You discuss it within a comprehensive, cohesive sustainability framework from the very beginning. And that's where you have the fluency. You have to develop to talk regulatory, with everybody. Yeah, that's not only the based in science only. It also depends on the practicality of the subject and how you employ it at every level. You have to have negotiate a lot of details along the way, because you'll meet with cost, schedule, time, equipment, material, and all need to be within the scale of action. And here becomes how excellent leader when you negotiate it collectively. The partnership is important. Make everybody as a friend in this process, and partner with everyone you can. In this whole magnitude, you will look at the risk identification. Often people will tell you, this will cause me this will cause me that. Maybe things that actually you will analyze yourself and find it as a risk identifier. It's going to cripple your program. It's going to discuss things differently. The dialogue will be different with the authorities. That's where you need to sit down, identify it, set objectives, and balance it. And this is where the core mitigation process started. I mean, you have to think about it in a way that if there is a mitigation, and you present it properly to avoid any conflicts, to avoid any conflicts. And definitely you have to have it done with transparency, fully transparent. You discuss it. You do not fear to discuss any structural issues, because that's where all the decisions are being created, and decision making is important for that. And in certain governance at the program level and not at the government level, we have the world have developed many internal frameworks to guide and certify sustainability. And the discussion 20 years ago, it was all about certification. I want to have gold lead. I want to have platinum lead. I want to have BREEAM. I want to have this, that. And then this dialogue and discourse becomes more strategic. It actually become more guiding, more as a compass to the project. And that's developed their own program and took the international experience and start looking at Abu Dhabi looked at Istidama program, Saudi looked at program, and other, Doha, Qatar have their own program, Oman, Jordan, Egypt. It all develops sustainability guidelines, and certification becomes more obvious. What matters to us, there is no certification process, because that's a process you have to take it with your environmental planners, master planners, architects, engineers, contractors. What matters to us is which part of the project does it impact? Which part of the program does it impact? Where do you start with it? We start with it from the very beginning, from point zero. I call it from point zero, and through all the way until we hand over the project and post handover. Even in the defects liability period and the maintenance period, it goes through, and it becomes as a strategy. This is where we start seeing returns and value of the certification, not just the program of governance program itself. So basically, we align with everyone, as I said, and we ensure continuity of that thought. Example One of the examples, LEED, and y'all familiar with it. You all familiar with LEED and LEED certification, LEED levels, LEED groups. I mean, the discussion is wide open. It also relate to the key performance indicators of any mechanisms that we do. So at the end, it's accountability with the leadership. What matters to the leaders is you look at, you take charge of it. It's a powerful tools and powerful guidelines to use, but this is it's not a branding exercise. Accountability, it's achievement, it is success for your programs, and it's definitely can be marketing, but we're not going to use it as that way. We are using it for the environment, for all the climate change that's happening, for our CO2 footprints, for the green gas emission. It's many things that we have to look at. BREEAM on the other side is another example. It looks at driving early stage decision, prioritizing operational performance. It can be adapted to the local climate. Istidama in Abu Dhabi, it started as a regulatory baseline, and then there was a parallel system in it, and then multi-authority coordination. But that's all at the strategic level, at the leadership level of UAE. They want sustainability to become the roadmap for all achievements, for all their deliveries. And that's why you see successful programs, and UAE and countries in the region are making headways in terms of these tailored sustainability governance. Saddam in Saudi Arabia and its relation in 2030, that is huge discussion to take separately, to look at it. It's a framework. It capital programming very well. It is integrated at the Giga-Project level. It work and couple well with ESG and localization. It works also as integrated at scale and from speed of management. So ensuring sustainability, it keeps it as a paradigm for mobilization and execution. We take it a step out and we look at the leadership as an integrator. Basically, what do we bridge the policy, we bridge the standard, we look at the delivery, and if develop that strong governance acumen, and we build the capacity across the program, and with the stakeholders and shareholders. We also take an active presence, in the process. We challenge, so we don't want to give solar because we have to save this. These small trade-offs may not work. We have a full balance of how, when we design sustainability, whether all the design factors that impact the portfolio. This is where the challenge acts, and this is how you show your negotiation skills as a leader to make sure that you're achieving a good level of sustainability, maximizing it. And usually you see things others may not see, and you want to see things into the future, 10, 20, 30 years of what will happen, of the end user will change, the stakeholder will change, the shareholder may change, the authorities may have changes. So you had to be aware of how things are set and how you present it to the present value. As a strategic economic value driver, that's where the business case. You will build a business case not only around savings, but for the resilience benefit. This is how you show how cities are built. What's the impact not only at your program, it impacts a portfolio, a quadrant of a city, a neighborhood, maybe a total city. That's where your role, I don't know where you come in the process, but every one of us take a different role, different position. And leadership, it's all integrated model. You build a correct and robust business case, and you always align with the vision of the city, the municipality, the shareholder. You try to maximize these alignments. This is how you qualify to demonstrate the value. This is how you show that a public-private partnership work, and we see that a lot now in the programs and in the regulatory systems. I want to go through some case studies that show some complex capital programs, and these are, examples of them. Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park, Abu Dhabi 2030. I was part of these teams, and I'm very proud of it. I learned a lot. Incorporated thoughts that made value and success. So Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park, that was a tender and a bid we were working on, and it was pretty major because it was a transformation process in the Dubai, Emirates of Dubai, and it was a pilot program that we had to start that will take it to scale. And now it's all built. Y'all can also go see it on the Al Ain Road. Dubai is now, this is an enabler for success for them. It's not only for economic returns, it's an environmental success. It is a world-renowned program for energy, and definitely it is in the arid region, definitely in the middle of the desert. And if you go visit, it's something outstanding. We all ought to be, as practitioners, ought to be proud of it. It's a strategic, and it works really well at all the ESG levels with the companies, with the programs, operators, people who make power and sell power under, PPAs, well bankable, programs, That's Abu Dhabi Capital District program. I think you're all familiar with it. It's the 2030 process. It's integrated planning. It's built on walkability and transit. It's an early sustainability adoption. It's a multi-entity coordination, and it was a success story, another success story in the region. That was one of the early thinking process of sustainability. One of my projects that I worked on back in 2005 and 6, and now it's getting replaced and changed, but the whole thought is still there. The lagoons project, and the towers are now, the 4 towers are becoming many towers. Now they're going to build, Dubai going to build one iconic tower. This was, by the way, it was going to build at some point in time, and then there was a lot of discussions, and I think sustainability and governance was part of it. Definitely discussion of water-centric design because the lagoons are all around it. It was a maturity issue to take that discussion at that time, 21 years ago. And I don't know, it's been a while, but that project is moved forward and definitely in the right direction. The Saudi Vision 2030, transformational impact on capital programs. And that's an overarching vision here. We're talking about that Saudi Arabia took a progressive, step towards setting that vision. It took sustainability at the core, at the heart of it. It impacted all its capital programs that you hear about in the news, trillions, billions, you name them, at all levels, economists, environmentalists, planners, architects, municipalities, developers, governments, everybody is involved in that vision. And everybody is responsible to take an impact on the capital programs. And certainly our roles as leaders to understand that complex array of, it's a multi-matrices basically, that you have to take all these guidelines, understand it, but it's mandatory. It's a governance expectation, and it's going at scale and speed. And that's where it becomes really complex. We don't want to be impacted as leader by the speed and the scale as much as we control it, as much as we understand it, as much as we put a good theme towards the adaptability and the achievement and how we scale things. You'll be responsible at the end because everyone else in the room will be looking at you to discuss it, to put the points exactly, to make the structure and the framework workable, adaptable, and to show the values. And it's not only economic, it's in economics, environmental, social. It have many, many impacts. Another one is the Dubai Master Plan 2023. I think y'all familiar with how Dubai moved in the last 30 years. We all seen the images. It's now full of green space. It's a transit-oriented city. It's integrated planning. It's a banking city. It's tourism city. it all guided by a clear performance targets. And believe me, sustainability was at the core, at the heart. And leaders who worked with sustainability over the last 2 decades have impacted how this city grow. That's another project in Abu Dhabi, in Al Ain, Jabal Hafid, actually, master plan in Abu Dhabi. It was a 3,000 residents for the nationals. It was a tourism park. It was a hospitality park. It all came together in an environment that's arid and mountainous, dealing with water, dealing with floods, dealing with transit, dealing with the climate changes, the water conservation, and the movement of flood programs in that particular area. It was a sustainable mobility issue, and definitely the project is built. The project was planned on sustainability with guidelines of istidama, and there was a lot of integration with contractor suppliers. Everybody used the local environment, the ecological sensitivity in the context, and it was beautiful to see it how it's working at the end. Another success story. In another case study here, I'm talking about Jeddah flood program master plan, and that was a climate resilience issue. Jeddah, as you know, for the last 30, 40 years, 20 years, was struggling and suffering with floods. And as a major team, we came together and we looked at Jeddah and how we take control of all these floods that's coming from the mountains, hitting the streets of Jeddah. And Jeddah is major metropolis, and it's very big, and it have a lot of impacts on residents and the environment, the economics. Floods was causing a lot of damage. Anyway, practical construction design, master planning took a lot of areas, created channels, took floods from the mountains all the way to the sea, created a lot of discussions, filtration, and I'm not going to go through the details of the master plan, but I can tell you it was a stormwater infrastructure integrated program. It was an urban planning integration, and it was massive interagency coordination. And believe me, sustainability was the key to guide all these discussions and dialogues and blueprints to make success of that story. In the consistent wisdom across all these case studies, sustainability in arid regions is not a technical challenge alone. It is a leadership, governance, systems, integration challenge. It's fairly complex. It requires a lot of discipline and governance at the heart of it, integration at every level from the very get-go, and it's systems thinking. It's a system. It cannot be looked at other than that. It's not an add-on. If you take some insights, definitely sustainability outcome at the program level is and guide the execution. Desert cities require systems-based coordination, energy and water transport, regulatory environment, risk management. We have to take it in consideration. The intra sustainability framework like LEED, BREEAM, STIDAMA require adaptivity and discipline into translating this into compliance. And sustainability must be positioned as the strategic economic value driver. Conclusion, I think fundamentally leadership challenge experience across MENA confirms that sustainable development in arid region is fundamental to the leader. It's a leadership challenge, and it's not merely technical. And it's also, when you apply it to complex infrastructure, it becomes multidimensional, and it creates multidimensional successes. And it's a framework. It cannot be looked at other than a system, a framework. It's a strategic and economic catalyst for any city, for any development that we want to do, and definitely the future-ready urban development, future-ready cities. It's gonna take that sustainability discussion and amplify it, and we don't know where it's gonna go, but definitely we have to have a good grasp of how things gonna work in the region and look at the big picture, maybe 2050, 2070, always open the discussions, and extreme environments requires a different level of programming at the leadership level. Definitely, this is the key takeaways. It's a governance, not a specification, not a certification only. It's you have to have an early stage embedding. It's a system integration. It's a strategic partnership. It's a framework discipline. It's an economic value driver, and it's a program level risk management. And you have to learn from the practice. You have to benchmark. You have to study other regions in the world. I think I talked a lot, but that's where I come to the conclusion of question and answers. I'm sorry I was very fast, but I'm with the time exactly 30 minutes.
All right. Thank you very much. So I feel that this was a very rich and structured presentation. What came through very clearly is that sustainability in arid regions is not a technical add-on. It's a leadership and governance and systems integration challenge. Um, from the program level sustainability embedding that you talked about to regulatory fluency and to managing the risk at a portfolio scale. Your case studies showed us how outcomes are shaped long before the individual project actually begins. And you made a very strong point that frameworks like LEAD or STDAMA or most of them only succeed when leadership turns them into governance tools and not just as a certification exercise. So I think with that context, let's move into the question and answer round and unpack some of these ideas a little further. I'm just going to take a very short break before we come back. So I'm just going to take a quick short break and then we begin our question answer round. All right, so I think we're facing some kind of technical difficulty with the LinkedIn stream. However, I think it's all right. We can go ahead with the session and then we'll figure out how to deal with the technical aspect after the session is over. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
All right. Okay, so my first question to you is about program level thinking. In your presentation, you emphasize defining sustainability success before projects begin. So, from your experience, what is the biggest mistake organizations make at the master planning or program strategies stage in arid regions?
Well, like I said, if we look at sustainability as a system, and it's not just as a technical challenge, but at the very beginning, of any endeavor, any thought, any vision, any program that a shareholder or an organization that wants to take, uh, usually we try to avoid making assumptions on the regional aspects and the economic aspects, the environmental aspects, without proper surveys, proper understanding of the feed ends of information. So we create that system thinking. It's a map, and we start creating the interviews, the discussions, the roundtables. We look at the sites. We visit the region very well. We talk to shareholders to avoid any of these mistakes that arise often we fall into the cost saving issue or the impacting schedule issues. And very big mistake is when you take feedback from the developer who sometime may tell you, I don't want to involve any of these sustainability frameworks because it's going to halt my handover dates and it will slow me down. And please take it out of all your master planning. And this is where you have to stop. You have to take a very thoughtful process. You have to present it in other ways. You have to negotiate it in other ways, and it's your responsibility to integrate it at the end, because a lot of the time the people do not see the value, but you have to educate it. And it was successful in many times. When you face challenge, you face pushbacks. When you explain it well, you go through the system, you go through the values, you go through the economics of it. People will start to lean, and slowly but surely that slow period at the beginning will turn into practice and then success.
All right. Yes. So my next question is actually a takeoff from the first one, where you mentioned something about systems integration. So, how does the system integration approach prevent failure when we're working with desert cities, and especially where energy, water, and transport are tightly coupled with each other, and these are all infrastructure systems that are working together. How does the systems integration approach help us to prevent failure in the desert?
Well, very good question, because if you go talk to the traffic or roads mobility, they have their own systems and their own key performance indicators and what they want. You talk to the energy, it's the same. You talk to water, it's the same. And because of the water scarcity, because of the urbanism that's really quick in the region, you see competing uh, requirements. And here, that's where you show the thinking process, the systems thinking process. You try to solve these interdependencies, because all these systems are interdependent in the district, in the city program, in a development program. They're all interdependent. We have to stabilize all these factors, whether it's energy, water, transportation. We have to stabilize them. How? By intentionally designing the sustainable system to reach the points that meets their key performance indicators. And we have to avoid unintentional destabilization of systems, because that will fire back, and someone will come to you and tell you, no, you are wrong. You've took the water first, but you forgot about energy, and you didn't plan it right. And there is a conflict here, and you have to solve it. And again, there is conflict resolutions that you have to take in place. But definitely, you don't take these competing, you work them and you balance them together.
All right. Yes, that helps us understand it. Um, my next question is about what are the strategic benefits of treating sustainability as a governance requirement instead of a late stage technical specification?
Again, one of the critical points that we discuss on a daily basis almost. It's we have to, as leaders, we have to have accountability, and we have to embed our accountability into the program. We have to show it. We're responsible for the decisions, for the metrics that will be guided through the program. We are to manage the risk controls and mitigations. We have to protect the long-term assets, not us as a person, as soldiers, but as leaders, as thinkers, as visionaries. We have to see what will come next, and we will have to study the status quo. And that's where it all begins, the discussion. Valuable, metric base, measurable, and then you show how the value will increase, and the from the current value to the future value, definitely to avoid any costly over retrofits in the future. And and that's a whole separate discussion. When you take the cost and you open it with their CFOs and ministers and mayors, it becomes a different level. You have to grasp it at multilateral, and you have to take every table with the rules of that discussion, basically.
Right, right, right. My next question, I'm going to move to a slightly different aspect of your presentation where you talked about governance frameworks and economic value. So, how can sustainability be repositioned as a strategic economic value driver rather than, very often it's seen as a project cost burden? Something that's going to weigh us down or cost, add on to the cost of the project. So, how do we shift or make this shift mentally or to the people who are kind of taking decisions on the project? How do we reposition sustainability as a strategic economic value driver?
Uh, to be quite honest, to think about this, it's fairly in-depth issue, and at different levels, the discussion take different, uh, dialogue and different insights. And if you're going to a developer, you have to talk with them about the development level. If you go to a municipality, you take it at the municipal level and their integration with the development. If you go to the government ministerial level, environmental issue at the ministerial level or at the government leadership level, that's you talk national and you align with the national agendas. But it all drives around why sustainability, why do we take it in, why do we build it in into the programs. uh, it has to be linked to the life cycle of anything we do, basically. And we have to make sure that the impact is on resilience and how cities, districts, programs become resilient, they're future ready. And that's where you have to overcome the national competitiveness of the energy, water. That's it's not a competitive issue. It's creating actually the value, and it's not about upfront capex. You treat it differently. Definitely, uh, confidence. The investor's confidence, whoever the investor is, or the shareholder, have to be built, have to be insured, and you have to show them why this value is good and why sustainability is the core of what we do for future.
All right. So, my next question is about what leadership discipline is required to successfully implement frameworks like LEAD or BREEAM or Istidama or Mosada, especially because we are working in such extreme climates. And so, for this extreme climate, when we're implementing green frameworks, what kind of leadership discipline is required?
Well, as I said, there are world examples of frameworks that's been guiding for the last 2, 3, 4 decades, and that knowledge is building up. The region, definitely GCC and MENA region, definitely built their own good benchmark system that's working very well, as we mentioned Mustadam and Istidama as examples. These are a performance monitoring and ensuring frameworks, and they're guiding your decisions throughout the life cycle of the portfolio of the program. They're not just certification checklists. We have to leave that mentality behind us. It's definitely a part of the process is certification and checklisting and surveys, and that part of the process, and working with suppliers and all the integrated group. But definitely at the strategic level, it's a disciplined governance, and it have to work cross sectoral, cross municipal, cross ministerial, and definitely look at it as a performance monitoring, ensuring success and values at the end.
Hmm, 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 hmm. All right. So, my sixth question to you is, how do national visions such as Saudi Vision 2030, which you showed us in your presentation, serve as the primary catalyst for embedding the ESG principles into capital programs?
Well, Saudi Arabia Vision 2030 is very ambitious, very progressive. It's ahead of time. People sometimes I see in LinkedIn forums sometimes saying, no, they're slow here, they're slow there. It's okay. Some programs speed up, some programs, leverage time and cost. At the end of the process, what matters to us is adaptability of sustainability and these sustainable development goals and programs and objectives. It's all happening. And to be quite honest, translating sustainability into sovereign priorities, it aligns regulation, it aligns funding, it aligns procurement mandates, it impacts the master planning, it impacts the engineering, the construction, the supply chain. It works across major systems and programs. And that's why it is important. And it really created that catalyst. It becomes the catalyst for embedding, the ESG's principles into the capital program. So we no longer see it as just a document we will sign and move on. No, that is a practice. We have to believe in it. We have to integrate it, and it's becoming a core dimension for us. It's a base and a foundation for how we think about these systems. And definitely, again, it's not an add-on. It's fully integrated.
Fantastic. So that really shed some light on that aspect of how we can use them to catalyze the embedding of ESG principles. Moving on to the next theme, my next couple of questions are about regulatory leadership and partnerships. So, how does regulatory leadership transform the relationship between program managers and authorities from compliance based to strategic partnerships?
Very good. Actually, success story for all leaders that are successful who are practicing in the core of sustainability, in the base, in the world of sustainability, in the ecosystem of sustainability. Partnership, I say S plural, with everybody, including, and the most important ones, you will have to develop things for the permitting process and approvals. And definitely, I'm not referring to it as a permitting and approval process. This is as an outcome, one of the outcomes of the system. However, you have to partner with the authorities, with the managers, with the stakeholders. You have to coexist, you have to co-create that standards of sustainability, that thought process, that system of sustainability. You have to impact the regulations. Maybe the regulations are against adopting certain measure of sustainability, but definitely there is a process of negotiation, discussion. That's where your partnership process comes into place, and you work with them as not as authorities as competing or as regulatory only. No, they become your friends, your partners, same as the engineers that we have in the team. We all work together to co-create that innovative way of thinking about things. And definitely we have to always think about safeguarding the public interest. If we don't safeguard public interest, the authorities will, or the shareholders, or the banks, or the government will come back on you and say you're not doing what you are promoting, what you are preaching. So let's not fall into this trap. We all had to agree to the most possible. So if our target 100% sustainability guidelines and achieving platinum or something, and we get to the goal, we come to a level that's acceptable, and I'm using gold and platinum from lead, but I'm not referring to it as specific in the leadership discussion. I'm talking about levels just to show you how thought process and systems thinking works to ensure that everybody is satisfied to the most, but most importantly, that development that you're creating is living for 100 years on a good base, protecting the environment, and definitely not play with the climate change, but against it.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. Okay, so now coming to my next question, which is about at what point in the program lifecycle must sustainability objectives be defined to ensure they influence procurement and design controls? So how do we make sure that that happens when we're working on the sustainability life cycle?
Simple answer: at the very beginning, at point zero, at the strategic level, at master planning stage. This is where we integrate. This is where we promote the thought. This is where develop the system, sustainability system. This is where all the discussions, all the brainstorming happen. Uh, if you want, before you procure the framework, before you procure it, before you close all your technical issues, before you discuss all the commercial issues, all the contractual issues, all the government regulatory frameworks. It all had to start step by step. It might look, lousy and tired, but it works. It works. If you have the persistence, you you will have the baseline started, and you will lock it in, and you will develop it, and it will grow with the program. But definitely, you have to be always ahead of the next step that's being taken by the planners.
All right, so straightforward answer right at the beginning. That's the point where program lifecycle must meet sustainability objectives. Okay, now moving on to the next section of our question answer round. This is the last section, and I'll come to my last two questions, which is about the case studies and learnings from practice. Since you have such a vast experience, we would like to ask a few questions. One is about, based on the Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park, what are the key requirements for transitioning from pilot innovations to utility scale infrastructure?
Well, definitely when we came to this project, it was new in thought. The government thinking about it as a major driver for environmental protection. It did not start only as tariff and cost and how to sell electricity, but definitely in the discussions that was part of it. Uh, Definitely, we have a strong policy backing. I think Dubai decided to take it forward, and this is where they announced the programs, the tenders, the procurements. Definitely, the model, they did not jump into the full 1,000 mega. They started with 1,000 giga. They started with 1 giga program, pilot program. So it was a phased model. Definitely, they looked at the cost and values of who generates, what's the cost of it, who's going to buy, what's the value of it. So a bankable and PPAs. It's not just an economic number that they want people to buy it. They tested the market. They tested the society. It was very smart process, and to design and procure a uh, a project around these guidelines was totally new. But the company and the teams that I was in were very smart. We came from across the world, and we put that leadership thought forum, and we built the procurement and the tenders accordingly. So the planning was from day one, and definitely the transition worked. And phase one was built, and the pilot program, and then phase two, phase three, and the expansion worked very well. And I think Dubai is now living, and reaping the value of that major capital program.
Okay, thank you. So now coming to my last question, which is which critical lessons regarding adaptive risk management and interagency coordination can be drawn from the Jeddah flood program case study?
Well, interagency coordination was the approach uh, to dealing with interagency is complex. You have to have all the knowledge, all the technicality, all the commercial based understanding, and definitely I took them as partners, friends, co-creators, coexisting in the same program, always discussed the values, always worked with the master developer presence of how do we translate the government wishes into uh, regulations and then into designs that will protect the society, protect Jeddah, one of the nicest cities on the Red Sea, actually, as cities, and definitely the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia took very forward steps at the end to build that program. Believe me, there was about 1,000 plus engineers that worked on that program, all under a leadership model that discussed all the procurements, all the coordinations, all the values, and the designs integratively with the authorities and the interagencies in general. And definitely that becomes a centralized to the programs. We looked at it not fragmented. Sustainability was at the core. It was centrally located, and every part of the Jeddah Flood program was linked to it. And we showed impact values, definitely moved the city towards resilience and make it ready for a future from all the storms that were heading at that time and all the floods that's happening. And yani, luckily, I think Jeddah is now enjoying a good sustainable system for the flood control. Maybe there is more to be done. It's never ended. The programming and infrastructure scaling up is never ends. It always had to be, you know, future forward, and it's the responsibility for the next phase of, master planners and generators to look at what's going to happen in terms of climate and how we protect Jeddah further.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that in depth answer. Um, all right. So before we close, I'm just going to quickly check and see if we have any questions from the audience. I believe we did have some technical issues happening on LinkedIn where we're streaming this. So, in case we do have, we can just quickly check. Otherwise, you'll have some more questions coming in after we finish the upload. All right. So, looks like there's one question. Across your 30 years leading large projects in complex geopolitical environments, what has been the single hardest leadership decision you've had to make in order to protect long term sustainability over short term pressure?
Uh, Very in-depth question, actually, and many lessons actually learned across the 30 years. Many lessons, but a lot of them are hard. A lot of them were complex. A lot of them have people call trade-offs. I call them balancing aspects. So I think Jeddah Flood Program and the Dubai Lagoons Program was probably the hardest in terms of convincing um, uh, decisions towards the entire group. And it starts at the very top level. It starts at the uh, top government level, then municipalities, then agencies. And it was a challenge. But the toughest decision to show is how we how we integrate the numbers uh, into the program, into their capital programs as interagencies, how to convince them to uh, policy adaptivity and structuring at scale the all the flood management measures. Uh, that was the most difficult uh, decision that we have to relay, and it's never been a single entity. It's always a complex endeavor. Um, and I hope I touched on part of your answer, but the case study is very well exemplifying, how things were translated, and it took years actually, but it was on an accelerated schedule. So we always have to fight against schedule. Cost was an issue, of course, because Jeddah is massive. It's not a small metropolitan, and definitely millions live in it. And the assets, whether it's a private or public assets, were at risk always. And these rains and these storms keep coming. So critical decisions, had to be relayed on time. And yes, there was some critical decisions that we have to take during that program.
All right, so I think we've come to the end of this webinar. Thank you for your very in-depth questions. Before I say thank you one last time, would you have one message to all the younger generation who are, early beginning their careers, whether they're architects, engineers, designers? One thought looking to the future that you'd like to leave everyone with.
Systems and communication. That's what I always tell all my friends. If you study and understand systems and how they work, open systems, closed systems, circular systems, we all live in a complex of systems, a lot of ambiguity around us, a lot of circumstances, uniqueness of regions, geopolitical conditions, understand all of them are resembled by systems. So you have to understand these systems. You have to communicate your thoughts on these systems, how you react to them, how you plan, how you employ things, how you execute your programs. It's all done by transparent communications and solid knowledge of the systems that you are dealing with.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for an incredibly
Thank you.
strategic and thought provoking session. Today's discussion reminded us that sustainable development in arid regions is not only a design challenge, it is a leadership discipline. It requires governance clarity, regulatory intelligence, and risk awareness, and program level thinking that extends far beyond the individual project itself.
Exactly.
Your insight into capital program leadership, infrastructure integration, and embedding sustainability at the policy and PMO level were extremely valuable for anyone working across the MENA and GCC landscape. So, to everyone who enjoyed us today, thank you for your engagement and for your thoughtful participation. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Designing for the Desert. Until then, stay curious, stay climate conscious, and keep designing with purpose. Thank you. Thank you very
Definitely.
much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Adit. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.